Hello and welcome to Beyond the Boundary. My name is Josh. It's fantastic to have you on board for another week. It's round 1.5, the second week of round one. I got Nic to my right. How are you, Nic?
I'm absolutely brilliant, Josh. Can't wait to get into it once again.
And Vinay on my left.
Footy's back. I'm excited, Josh.
I can't wait either to get stuck into tonight's show. Now, we want to thank our 100 subscribers
Over the weekend
that have subscribed to Beyond the Boundary on our YouTube channel. Leave any feedback that you have for us, either positive or negative. We appreciate all the feedback we can get to improve the show.
Yep.
Now, boys, let's get to our tipping. I believe I'm in front. It's good to see.
Not a good week for tipping, eh?
Not a good week,
geez.
but anyone who tipped 4 would...
I think the kiss of death is absolutely...
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
But let's start with Friday night before we kick into this weekend's games.
Yep.
Friday night was a bit of a downer, but how impressive for Fremantle.
They were electric, I think would be the word I'd use. That pressure, which they're renowned for, was just so good. They just cut Collingwood apart like we haven't seen in a very long time. So very impressive performance from Fremantle, and they're looking more and more like they could be the team to beat.
Vinay, I want to ask you, has a player ever played 3 quarters, been subbed off and been best on ground before? Nathan Fyfe.
I think we spoke about him, at the start of the season with our predictions. I have him as, I think one of us had him as our Brownlow Smoky. He's an extreme talent. It's scary to think how much he achieved in just those 3 quarters. He's a contested ball winning machine. He takes big marks. He kicks goals. He's a really big sort of highlight for their season this year, Nate Fyfe.
And I think Collingwood has a lot of work to do. They were pretty terrible on the weekend, but one side that wasn't terrible, the GWS Giants. Boys, what about that?
What a great win that was. What a great way to kick off the season for this GWS team. Who everyone's thinking, they'll probably win the wooden spoon again. Another year of being mediocre. They just stamped out that. It started off the game like other GWS or Gold Coast games that you can remember, where you think, there's just young kids coming out of the blocks quickly. And Sydney will pick it up soon. They're just having a slow start. But GWS took it up to them, and in the last quarter, they did not let that pressure. It was just relentless. They did not let the pressure go and got the win. Amazing stuff.
Vinay?
Yeah, I thought, watching that whole game, I thought Sydney they lost their legs in that last quarter. Their big guns didn't really do much. Josh Kennedy, he had 22 disposals and 20 of them were contested.
It's ridiculous.
Loves a hard ball.
And if that doesn't tell you how much GWS made him earn his ball, then, they're making him accountable, which is excellent. Leon Cameron had the perfect plans, and not having Kieran Jack, the awkward tactic of Ryan O'Keefe as sub, whether he'd played from the start or not, whether that might have made a difference, who knows, but all credit to the GWS side. Brilliant performance.
And before we quickly move on, I think that 25-minute quarter time was absolutely the right call by the AFL.
Yep.
I thought the health and safety concern there was spot on.
Yeah,
I think it was 100% the right call, and there's a lot of ignorant people out there that were calling the players soft for doing so, but it was 100% the right call.
Surely
it was a swimming pool out there, I can guarantee you.
Surely there's better things to complain about.
Now, moving on, the Gold Coast Suns, boys. They were very, very impressive against the Tigers. Vinay, what was your take?
What was my take? I'd actually,
You tipped them.
If I had like a little mini TV here, I would show you exactly what I said last.
Vinay?
I'm going to go against you boys again now. And I tell you what, you guys are really backing Richmond here. I'm going to back Gold Coast here. I reckon they'll win this. I'm telling you. I'll be sitting in this chair next week telling you, I told you Gold Coast would win it. But I've got them by 11 this week, boys.
I'll put it in the corner.
I am going to, yep. I was certain they'd win, and they proved me right. Gold Coast, but honestly speaking, they've proven us all right in the sense that they're no longer easy beats. We mentioned how they're one of the strong teams of the competition. Now, Nic was talking about their finals prospects.
Yep.
They're a very, very strong side. Gary Ablett, we said that Dan Jackson's absence would bring Richmond some nightmares, and 41 disposals and 2 goals.
Just another week at the office for Gary Ablett.
I think also, boys, that we stop focusing on just Gary Ablett. It's Dion Prestia now. It's Jago Mira. It's David Swallow. It's Harley Bennell to come back in as well. It's time we stop focusing on Gary Ablett himself. the Gold Coast midfield is going to be very, very scary, if not already.
Very, very good performance from the Gold Coast. And last of all, it was Port Adelaide defeating Carlton by 32 points at Etihad Stadium, the Sunday night game last night, today being Monday. Carlton, they looked like they had the win in the bag for a little while there. We talked about how Port Adelaide, with the tall forwards, they could really dominate Carlton. With the midfield, they could really dominate Carlton. But Vinay and I just felt that Carlton would find a way to get on top. And at 3/4 time, it looked like they would. But
I think, boys, the main man was Justin Westhoff. I think that second quarter, I know it's round one, in the first week of round one, but I think we're going to find it very difficult to top that quarter. I think he had 9 disposals, 6 marks, 4 of them contested, and kicked 4 goals. It was an absolutely unbelievable quarter.
And a whack to the head.
And he took young Matthew Watson to the cleaners.
Yep, definitely. Justin Westhoff. They were talking about how Ken Hinkley, he's one of the players that's blossomed under Hinkley. He was just monstrous. He was taking contested marks at will, Westhoff.
Made Matthew Watson look absolutely second rate.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to everyone's favourite segment. It's the Toast and Roast.
The Toast and Roast.
Here we go.
I think I'm up first.
Who's going first? You going first?
Yeah, I'm up first with the toast.
Guys, up first.
My toast this week is Vinay.
Oh, look out.
I originally had Gary Ablett, but Vinay told me hands off.
Yeah.
Because
brotherly love.
There might be a topic he wanted there. But Vinay, he was brave enough to tip the Gold Coast. Went out on a limb. Richmond looked very strong coming into that game, and good on you. Good tip.
Thank you, Nick. Much appreciated, mate.
All right, Vinay, what's your toast, mate?
My toast is going to be, Nick alluded to it, it's going to be the Gold Coast Suns. I thought they were absolutely magnificent. They finished last year strongly, and the most important thing is that they've come out this year and, backed up what they showed us last year. It's very easy for a club to finish off a season excellently and return to old habits in round one.
Yep.
Gold Coast didn't do that. They took that next step and proved to everyone Metricon must take them seriously. They are not easy beats anymore at all. So they were brilliant. And just on a side note, this is not really my toast, but I've just got to mention this. This is a cupcake made by Mrs. Rickard.
Maybe lean it forward to your camera on the left there. Give them a good look at it.
There?
Yeah.
Just there. There we go. You can just see the little footy boots and the little footy on it. And I thought that was absolutely genius.
Absolute brilliant stuff.
It's an absolute work of art. I'd feel bad eating it.
Turn it up a bit more to face the camera, mate. There we go.
Got it?
Great stuff.
Beautiful.
It's an absolute beauty, that one.
Okay, moving on. My toast will be the GWS Giants. I just couldn't go past them this week. I thought their game against the Sydney Swans was phenomenal. I think it was actually the first game that they've played that was 4 quarters. I didn't think they were ever out of the game. Yeah. And midway through the 4th quarter, even when they were down, I didn't see them losing that game. They just had all the momentum. They were playing good footy. Sydney couldn't do anything right. I think the likes of Jeremy Cameron, Jonathan Patton kicking 7 goals between them. Who needs Buddy?
Great stuff from GWS. Now it's time for the Rickard Roast.
Looking
forward to it this week.
My Rickard Roast goes to the Carlton cheer squad. Ooh. Now, Nick, I hope you put a picture up of this. I sent you one during the week.
Yeah, there's a picture on the bottom of your screen there.
The effort they put into their banner was, come on, guys. I mean, you've got that big wall of paper. Use it. Come on, guys.
Write the future.
Write something else. Give some witty rhyme. Come on. It's round 1. Lift your game.
Belongs on a bumper sticker, I reckon.
Oh, not even that.
Yeah.
Lift your game, Carlton cheer squad. Come on. Pick
anyway,
it up.
Moving on to the serious stuff. It's the first game of the round. It's my boys Geelong versus Adelaide. Thursday night at Simmons Stadium. Last time these two teams played, Adelaide got the better of us. It was round 17, 2013 at Amy Stadium, and the Crows got up by 2 points. Boys, what do you think about the first game of round 1.5?
I'm looking forward to it. Both teams are going to be heavily depleted by injury. Both have massive injury lists. I'll just reel them off for you here. You got George Burberry, Alan Christensen, Daniel Menzel, Stephen Motlop, Nathan Vardy, Shane Kirsten as well, all out for Geelong. While Adelaide, you've got Richard Douglas, Ricky Henderson, Tom Lynch, Andy Otten, Nathan Van Berlo, and the superstar forward Taylor Walker. So there's some very, very handy names in that lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see who steps up for either side and which depth comes through the most.
I think one big point that could be the difference this game is the key forward battle. Because both teams at the moment are struggling for key forwards. Geelong, as we know, Nathan Vardy's gone down for the season with an ACL, which is terrible. And Taylor Walker, the same story at Adelaide last season, going down with the ACL. Shane Kirsten, it's just been revealed, probably the number one candidate for the Cats as a replacement. He's going to miss half the season, so he certainly won't be playing this week. And I think it's really going to be a big battle at either end of the ground. Tom Hawkins versus James Podsiadly, the former Cat. Which one of those can really turn up and really dominate this week? Because it's almost, they're the two competent tall forwards in the game. You know, there'll be a Jenkins, there'll be a Josh Walker or a Mitch Brown around, but these are going to be the real big targets at each end.
Vinay, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think it'll be a very, very interesting game, just because Geelong is as vulnerable as they'll be for a while.
Yeah.
They're also, one other injury is, well, someone that's missing is Dawson Simpson, I think. No, is he playing?
So Dawson Simpson's playing and Hamish McIntosh is playing, but they've had very interrupted pre-seasons.
Okay, yeah. So, their pre-seasons, Simpson, I think, went down and then he came back, and same with McIntosh.
Yeah.
So it just seems like they've got a team on the park that's very young. And, the skipper, Joel Selwood, he played, I think, a quarter in the NAB Challenge. Not that he needs a lot of pre-season form behind him to play well, but, you'd still like it. And they're playing a lot of rookies, kids like Lincoln McCarthy.
Yeah, most likely be in the shot. So.
But the one thing is that Geelong have found themselves in this situation time and time again, where their youngsters have needed to lift. And every time they have done it. So that's why I think this will be interesting. To be honest, I reckon Geelong are harder hit here by injuries.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think they're the best equipped to deal with injuries than any other club in the AFL.
On the point of the tall forwards that we mentioned earlier, I think Geelong will be going in with a very tall team. You'll have Harry Taylor lining up on Podsiadly, obviously, in defence, and Lonergan probably on Jenkins. But in the rucks, Chris Scott said this morning, being Monday in his press conference, that Hamish McIntosh, Dawson Simpson and Mark Blitzarves will all play. Blitzarves as sort of a Justin Westhoff-style midfielder.
Okay.
So those on top of a Mitch Brown as a forward and then Tom Hawkins on a forward, there's going to be a lot of tall timber there for Geelong. Yeah. Not necessarily as a really good forward setup, but there's just going to be tall timber, all over the ground. So it could be interesting to see how that pans out.
Touching on the Adelaide Football Club, Josh, we've had a good look at Geelong, but Adelaide, they've gone through a lot of changes pre-season. How do you see them in relation to last year?
I mean, as we keep saying, we don't want to look into NAB Challenge form too much, but the way they played in the NAB Challenge certainly looks like they've reinvigorated themselves. They've got a bit of fresh legs in there, fresh faces. Eddie Betts and James Podsiadly have brought that experience to the club. So it'll be interesting to see how they play, how they fit in. I have no doubt Eddie Betts will be the same player he was at Carlton. He'll kick his 40 goals for the year.
Yep.
Injury providing, of course, but
yep.
I think we'll see them surge back up the ladder this year. I would not be surprised if they push into the final 8.
Okay.
So, Josh, who are you tipping?
I'll be tipping. What is my tip? Geelong by 12 points.
12 points. I've got Geelong by 25. Simmons Stadium is a fortress, and I just can't see them losing this one.
I've got the Cats by 16.
Before we quickly move on,
yep,
we've got a caddy count this year. Every time Nick says Josh Caddy, which he surprisingly didn't in our preview, ding. We're going to have a little ding in the corner. It's going to be there every time he says it, and we'll keep it up every time it comes up this year. But moving on, the next game is North Melbourne versus the Essendon Football Club. Boys, interesting game this.
Friday night at Etihad Stadium. Last time it was round 21 of 2013. Also at Etihad, it was North Melbourne by 45 points.
Vinay, what do you think, mate?
This is a very interesting game, Josh. I'm really looking forward to this game. North and Essendon are both, in my books, teams that on their day can beat any club in the AFL. And then on their day, they can lose to any club in the AFL.
Yep. Yeah? Yep.
So I think that's why this game is so interesting, because they're just so, I don't want to say fickle, but just very ranged with the way that the form that they bring.
Inconsistent, I guess.
Yeah. But, Essendon is a strong team, and so is North. They just haven't reached the potential that they should have over the past few years. North have probably had the bigger preseason in the sense that Nicky Dal Santo has now joined the ranks.
Yep.
Guys like Ben Cunnington and Jack Zeeble have started to show something. So, it'll be very, very curious. Whereas Essendon, they're going in with quite a few injuries. Important ones as well. Tom Bellchambers, he's easily in their best 22, number one ruckman, and also very useful.
Best 5, I'd say.
Yeah,
Best 5.
Yeah, very, very good forward as well. So, he's gone down. Jake Melksham is an extremely underrated player, does a lot off halfback and also through the midfield. So, I think, it's going to be a tough battle, but Essendon, they tend to rise to these kinds of things.
So, Josh, Joe Danaher shouldering the load up forward. How do you think he'll go?
Nick, I think it'll take a couple of games for him to adjust to the pressure that he's going to cop.
Get in the swing of things?
Absolutely. He's going to cop Scott Thompson, the All-Australian fullback, this week. So it's going to be a massive challenge for him. But I have no doubt that he can adapt very, very quickly. He's such a talented young kid. And now that Jack Martin's gone down, he affirms the favourite as the rising star, I think. So,
really?
Yeah, I think he will. And he's just got so much presence up forward, and he's put on about 5 or 6 kilos this year in the pre-season. So I think he can really dominate that position. Whether he does it immediately is a different question.
Yeah.
But come the end of the year, I think we'll start to see signs of him being a very, very dominant forward.
And moving on to North Melbourne, Nick Del Santo, as Vinay mentioned, coming into the side. How much of a difference do we think that'll make for North Melbourne? Having another experienced head, when the going gets tough at the end of the games and they've been slipping, like losing those leads, slipping those close games like they did last season, I feel he's that kind of player who will just really step up for the Roos and make a difference, and perhaps more than half of those results will be going towards North Melbourne instead of towards their opposition.
I think the thing that's got North Melbourne's attention of Nick Del Santo to get him to the club is his use of the ball. He's such a good user of the football.
Yes.
And he can hit a target 15 metres away, he can hit it 50 metres away. I think teams and coaches are looking at players recruitment-wise that can use the football. It's no longer about agility or speed or anything like that like it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's now ball efficiency.
I think one of the key things to look at is also North and Essendon are both attacking teams. You're looking at their play styles, which is very important nowadays. It's literally as though every side has their own, unique style that they abide to. We're talking about Freo just choking the life out of Collingwood. And then you've got North and Essendon, both very attacking, love to go through the midfield. None of the boundary business. They just love to, if they can use the corridor, they do use the corridor. So it'll be a battle of the offenses, really. And Nick Del Santo adds a huge sort of weapon into that arsenal because he is a very accurate kick. And accuracy goes hand in hand with offense, I think.
I think building off half-back, North Melbourne are one of the best teams in the competition. The game, we just got over the line against them, Geelong, that is, against North Melbourne last season. They absolutely killed us when the players would just come into the corridor and then just sneak away from their opponents, and it would just be chip kicks getting from the half-back line to the half-forward line, which can really kill the opposition. We've got a great stat here. It's Rickard's stat I should give him credit for, actually.
Yes, this is a very good one.
They've played 8 times in round 1, and it's 6-2 in favour of Essendon, with an average winning margin to the Bombers of 56 points.
I'll be happy with that on Friday night, trust me.
Very interesting stat. Essendon, they just like coming out of the box really quickly against the Roosters, as they've shown in the past.
Now, before we move on to our tips, boys, I want to say one thing.
Yep.
Expect fireworks on Friday night between these two teams. These two teams absolutely hate each other. Absolutely hate each other. It's because they
Hate each other.
Hate each other. I listened to Drew Petrie on Triple M Radio on Saturday.
Yep.
And he grew up as a Bombers fan.
Yep.
And he said, I switched that quickly because I learnt the culture of the football club, and we do not like the Essendon Football Club, and it goes the same way. So expect some fireworks.
Tell you what, Nick.
And it's not
Big
lost on
Drewy.
it's not lost on the supporters either. I think the supporters don't like each other either.
Speaking of fireworks, time for the tips, guys. Josh, what do you reckon?
This really, really hurts, but North Melbourne by 21.
He's gone the Roos.
I'm here to win. I'm here to win the tipping comp.
Oh,
So is Essendon.
He's leading at the moment. I'm not happy about it. I've gone the Roos by 10 points. I think this is probably going to be the match of the round, actually. I think it's going to be a mighty close game. I think the Roos will just get the job done.
Yep. I reckon North Melbourne by 20. Can't wait for Friday night.
Moving on. Hawthorn versus Brisbane, Saturday afternoon at Aurora Stadium. What do we think, boys?
I think Hawthorn's, as I said last week, I made the big call that Hawthorn has the best chance of anyone to go through a season undefeated.
I'm still coming to terms with that call.
I don't shy away from it. I think they're absolutely primed and ready to go. And you'll see with my tip later, they've got 7 premiership players missing from this game. I mean, not the side we've named that you can see on your screen. They've got 7 players missing that won't play this week. So that speaks statures of the depth that they have at that football club and the impact that depth can have when they come into the side.
Well, I guess we will see on Saturday afternoon how good that depth really is. Having said that, I think we all agree that Brisbane might not be the most formidable opponent this season.
I think one thing about Brisbane's game style that I've noticed is that they've got it's sort of like Freo. It's like a miniature version of what Freo do. They love to force the ball down towards the boundary line. They like to just create this wall around the stoppage. And they love to let their inside mids, like Rockcliffe and Maloney, feed the outside mids, like Jack Redden, and then head down forward. So it's a really rigid kind of game style that they've got.
Sort of a predictable game style.
It is, yeah.
It's a solid one, but a predictable one.
Yeah, it's a solid one, but it can get predictable. It's similar to St. Kilda in a way. And I think that Justin Lepich, he's got all the talent he needs in that Lions squad. But as we've seen over the past few years, they've had a very talented list, but just hasn't gelled for them, has not worked. Don't know what it is, but just has not worked. And Hawthorn, down at Aurora, when things don't work for you, they cut you to pieces. So
I think Brisbane will really struggle this year. I think it could get ugly in Tasmania. Hawthorn, as we've said, they're primed for this game. There's a couple of, 7 of their premiership players missing, but their depth is just that good. And I think they're going to come out and make a statement for their first game of the season and really put Brisbane to the sword.
Tips, boys?
We saw in the NAB Cup, just before we move on to the tips,
nice.
We saw in the NAB Cup that Hawthorn were just relentless with their opponents.
That's true.
Even in practice matches, which meant nothing, they were quite happy to pile on the goals by 100 points.
Absolutely. There's 2 players I want to touch on before we move on. The first one is Ben McAvoy. I think he will absolutely thrive as a ruckman at Hawthorn. He's going to become one of the more dominant ruckmen in the competition, I think. He was good at St Kilda. Okay, he had a lean 2013, but was still very good. His 2012 year was phenomenal. He's gone to Hawthorn now. He's got a supreme midfield around him. He's going to be absolutely fantastic, and he'll be a top 3 ruckman by the end of the year. The other player I want to touch on, and I've named him in the possible 22, is Alex Woodward.
Okay.
Alex Woodward. He is going to be a very, very good footballer. Okay. You're looking at me like you don't know the name.
Oh, it's an interesting name. It's has me on my toes. Woodward.
Woodward. Yeah.
He got unlucky with injury.
He's had 2 knee reconstructions.
2 knee recos.
I'm telling you right now, he is a very talented footballer, and if he gets some games under his belt, look out. Hawthorn may have another superb footballer on their hands.
Having said that, Josh, kick us off. Who are you tipping?
Hawthorn by 84 points, just too strong down at Aurora Stadium, and I don't think Brisbane are just quite up to it.
I'm thinking Hawthorn by 101 points.
Oh, jeez,
I think they've hurt Brisbane in the past.
Just a small margin?
Small margin.
Just by a few kicks, I think, Josh. Just a couple of kicks.
Mind you, mine wasn't too different. Vinay, what about you, mate?
I'm going to cut them some slack, boys. I'm going to say 50 points. I say cut them some slack, but then I still tip them by 9 goals. But
it says 40 on the run sheet.
No, I changed my mind. Look, no, I think Brisbane, they've got a very, very good midfield. Yeah. In my opinion, Tom Rockcliffe is a top 10 midfielder in the AFL.
Yeah.
He's extremely talented and he kicks goals and, I don't know, maybe they can find something and not get completely belted.
He loves Tom Rockcliffe. Anyway, moving on. It's St Kilda versus Melbourne. Saturday night at Etihad Stadium, which could be another contender for match
under the lights.
Just quietly, I'm going to say this could be a very good game. Last time it was round 13, 2013 at the MCG when St Kilda got the job done by 35 points. Boys, what do we think?
I've loved Melbourne in the pre-season. I love what Paul Roos has done. You gave him your toast last week.
I did.
I think they've turned a corner somewhat, but I want to see it in the season as well. They've been fantastic in the pre-season. Okay, I haven't won every single game, but from what I've seen in the pre-season, I want to see them transform it into this game. And they've got a pretty easy run to start with, so it's a perfect opportunity to get some momentum, form, and the most important thing is what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence. That's the word. Some confidence out.
Me lost.
Some confidence into their season and into their players.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's an interesting game, isn't it? Because Melbourne and St Kilda this time last year would have been a very easy tip.
Yep.
for round 1. And now it's just been a preseason, and automatically it's amazing how much difference that can make. So it's such a contrasting game style as well. Melbourne, under this new high disposal sort of structure, they went over 400 disposals twice and nearly broke the all-time record. So they are sharing it around an absolute ton. And you look at the Saints, on the other hand, they finished 12th overall for total disposals per game last year. A team that, loves to play on from marks, don't really go back and have a look. They don't like to share it around as much.
Yep. And they come into this game without Lenny Hayes, Lee Montagna, and Jack Steven. Arguably their 3 best midfielders.
Three best ball users and 3 best accumulators.
And you've also got to take into account Nick Del Santo isn't there anymore.
Of course.
Brendan Goddard's been a year out of that side. They're really lacking those are their 5 best midfielders over the last 3 to 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think the thing is, not so much Lenny Hayes, and I've harped on it a bit in our first 2 episodes, but Jack Steven and Lee Montagna kick goals as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're right.
A lot of the responsibility is going to fall on Nick Riewoldt to kick these goals, especially with Adam Schneider out of the side. Yeah. Stephen Milne retired. It's a lot of goals missing, and a lot of responsibility is going to fall on Nick Riewoldt this year.
Now, boys, who are we going to tip this weekend?
I'll go first. I'm tipping the D's. I'm right behind them. I love what Paul Roos is doing. Huge turnover of players. Melbourne by 10 points.
I think it's a great story already what's happening down at Gosh's Paddock. I think it's going to be Melbourne by 20 points. They're really going to get the job done against the Saints.
Yep. I think Melbourne's possessional obsession, let's go with. They love to use the ball, love to have it. I reckon that'll frustrate the Saints.
Yep.
D's will get it done by 16.
Very good. Moving on to the last game of the season. Last game of the
season. Did Essendon finish on top?
It's been a quick season, boys.
No, actually, GWS are in the 8, so you got GWS Gold Coast in the finals.
Second
Sydney
on the ladder,
and Collingwood missing out. So
anyway, back to the serious stuff. The last game of the round. It's West Coast, Vinay's boys down the end of the table here, against the Western Bulldogs. Sunday night at Patterson Stadium. Last time it was round 18, 2013 at Etihad Stadium, and the Bulldogs got the job done by 22 points. Boys, what do we think?
It's interesting. I think West Coast is another team that have gone through a lot of change over that pre-season.
Yep.
Adam Simpson has them playing a more careful, efficient, watchful style of football. And, that automatically in my mind reminds me of Hawthorn. First thing I think of now when I watch them play is Hawthorn. You can see that influence there. The midfielders are taking marks. They're going back. They're looking for targets. Too many occasions last year, West Coast bombed it inside 50, could not find a target, which is a waste because they've got some good forwards. So I reckon that was one of their big flaws. They've rectified that.
Yep.
Only 3 players are injured. Mark Hutchings, Tom Barras, and probably the only major one that would be in the best 22, Beau Waters. So, they're exactly where they want to be at this stage. And I can really see them doing quite well in front of their home crowd.
It's something they didn't have last year, isn't it, Vinay? They didn't have a fit list for very much of the year. They had plenty of injuries. Beau Waters, arguably probably top 5 at the West Coast Eagles.
In my opinion,
The role he plays in defence is absolutely massive, and the most courageous player
I've ever seen.
Close into the AFL, probably just behind Joel Selwood. But
you heard it first.
I'm backing Waters.
But he's just so important to your structure in that back line. So, but I think the man we spoke about last week, Nick Naitanui, you get a fit 22 games out of him. He's going to be the difference in a few games. And last year, he could have used that and pushed into the finals maybe. Yeah. So hopefully he's fit, plays majority of the season, and we might see the Eagles back in the top 8.
At the same time, I just want to mention the Doggies. They've also had an excellent preseason, and I really like what they're doing. They've made some good acquisitions. They've actually got they've got a proper forward now in Stuart Crameri.
Yep.
So that'll make a big difference. And, they've also got some very good mids.
Sorry, Nick, just to interrupt you. I want to ask you, Vinay. I read a tweet during the week from the one and only Mark Stevens, who's a very popular tweeter. He said, why has the Western Bulldogs gone and got Stuart Crameri when he wants to spend more time as a midfielder?
It's interesting. Stuart Crameri, the way he was used at Essendon was mostly as a key forward, maybe with occasional stints in the midfield. But I think Crameri's departure from Essendon, it might have had a lot to do with just wanting a fresh start, as opposed to I want to now become a midfielder. And the Bulldogs, they must have felt they can get the best out of Crameri. Cranberry's now going down to the Bulldogs as the kingpin forward. He's the number one down there. He's like the Buddy Franklin of their forward line.
And there still really isn't that forward timber for the Western Bulldogs. It really is just Stuart Cranberry.
Yeah, so
Stuart Cranberry that they're going to be looking to.
The appeal of that leadership role, that probably caught Cranberry's eye. And, maybe just put that midfield thing in the back burner.
But that's what confuses me. They're recruiting him as a forward, yet he keeps continually saying he wants to spend more time in the midfield. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think we have the answer there, but we'll
very paradoxical.
We'll have to wait and see
on Sunday. Tips, last game of the round. What do you think, Josh?
I think West Coast are primed. They've got a very fit list. They had a very good preseason. I don't think they lost a game in the preseason. Is that right, Vinay?
Correct.
I think they're ready to go, and I think we might see some of the best of the West Coast Eagles of 2012 when they made the top four, was it?
Fifth, I think.
Fifth, yep. I think we'll see them return to similar form, and I think they'll get it done very, very easily by 41 points.
Well, last season, a lot of people were tipping them for top four. Not a ridiculous amount has changed in the structure of their side since then. They have lost some experience, but not too much has changed there.
800 games of experience.
800 games of experience, but
he loves using that record.
The young up-and-coming stars, which we predicted last season would really dominate, they're still there. Nothing's changed there. I think this year it's time for them to really show what we were expecting from them last season when the injuries really cut them up. There's no injuries there, as you mentioned, at the moment. So no excuses. West Coast by 35 points.
I just want to mention quickly before I give my tip that, the Bulldogs, they had the highest contested possession differential last year. They are extremely talented. Tom Liberatore is an absolute inside machine, as is Matty Boyd, as is Ryan Griffin. So they've got some excellent mids in there. The only reason I see them falling behind here is just the lack of tall timber. Cranberry's a good forward, but is he good enough to kick a bag on Darren Glass, the All-Australian captain Darren Glass? Questionable. Yeah, he's still a developing forward in my opinion.
I'm just going to call it and say no, he's not.
So, he's still a developing forward. He still needs a few more years before he can really become a massive threat to opposition defences. And West Coast forward line, guys like Nat Newey, Darling, Kennedy, Lacroix, a bit too much to handle, particularly over there in Perth. So I'm going to go West Coast by 30 points.
Well, boys, I think that's everything for round 1.5.
I think so, and it's been a very enjoyable show again.
As always.
Really enjoying the way we're doing things at the moment. As I said at the top of the show, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll put the post up on our Facebook page and our Twitter. I think we should put it on our Twitter as well. We haven't been doing that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Get on
it. So make sure you leave a comment for us as well. As I said at the top of the show, we appreciate all the feedback that you leave us, whether it's good or bad. We take it all on board, and we appreciate you getting involved with the show.
Follow us on Twitter. We've got our Twitter handles at the bottom of the screen. Twitter handles at the bottom of the screen there.
So if you got any email inquiries, btbafl@live.com.au. See, I got it right.
He's got it this week.
Damn
so
it.
Any email inquiries, please send us through if you'd like to get involved with the show. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Oh, can't go an episode without giving him a mention. Josh Caddy, look out for him on Thursday.
Ding, ding.
And just quickly, just want to thank Valley Arm as well for continuing to support us, and really, really excited to be doing this.
We've got some exciting announcements hopefully coming up.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Enormously. I fell out of my chair. I almost fell out the window when I found out.
We will hopefully have one of the best Kangaroo players to have played the game.
We'll leave you with that.
So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.